Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the topic of our last episode, how to be your CFO and successfully. If you are unable to join us and would like to listen to the show, links can be found on our YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as multiple favorite podcast platforms. And if you'd like to receive notifications on when our podcasts have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. So the interview that I did today was supposed to be with Alex, but due to an illness, his business partner, Will, stepped in for the interview, and I did not have his bio at the time of the recording. So let me give you a little bit of information about Will. Will Severns is a dynamic commuter, ghostwriter, and co-founder of Streamline Books, a professional writing service that helps prospective authors write, edit, and publish their book in a 16-week process. Will is in charge of leading Streamline's writing and editing team, as well as coming alongside his co-founder, Alex Demchek, as they help as many people as possible in the months and years ahead write and share their stories with the world. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about Will, Alex, or Streamline Books, visit their website at writemybooks.com. Now, onto the recording that we did. Now, I want to go into this topic with some questions about how to even write a book, get it published. There's probably some listeners who are tuning in who are very interested in this topic. But before I actually ask questions about that, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you even get into helping people on this same journey?
Yeah, thank you so much, Candy. This is so fun and an honor to be on this call and on this podcast. From what Alex told me in the week leading up, was already getting excited to do it alongside him because we've done podcasts together and we're kind of getting the word out about Streamline Books currently. Even in the little bio I saw that you had as Alex as an inspiring communicator. I already feel bad for your audience. I'll let them decide if I can carry the same weight as Alex can, because I agree with that sentiment. He is a very gifted communicator, speaker. He's out kind of right now on book tour for his book, The Sale, which is so great. So Alex is a published author, but he's also my co-founder. So Alex and I are co-founders of Streamline Books. And it is kind of the brainchild of him and I coming together in fall of 2020. So if you know, obviously there was the season of pivoting and reassessing business and trying new things. And I had my own content marketing business here in Kansas City. So that's where I'm calling you from today. I'm here in Kansas City on the Missouri side, not on the Kansas side. And my wife and I had our own content marketing business, and I was doing writing-centric content marketing for different businesses, whether that was blog posts or case studies or social media. Our business was called Quill Creative. So think Quill like the pen, but we did QW. Yeah, we did QWILL. So we got my name in there, which was fun. So Quill Creative still exists, but over the last year or two, as Quill Creative clients have gone down, purposefully work with Streamline has gone up. So fall of 2020 is when I had people reach out about the ghostwriting side of what I did. And so for me, it was, yes, whether it's through blog posts or LinkedIn articles, but specifically people asked about helping others write and articulate their story in book form. So I kind of just did a deep dive into that world. Around that same time, Alex reaches out and was like, Will, I've read some of the stuff you've been doing. Like, you're a great author. So he and I worked at a Christian summer camp from 2012 through 2014. So that was where we originally were connected. Fast forward to 2020. Yeah, it was like, hey, let's hop on a call, talk, catch up on life. But then from a work standpoint, Alex said, Will, as I'm out promoting my books and speaking, people ask me all the time, how do I get into more speaking? This is people asking Alex that question. And Alex's response and say, well, having a book helps, and then inevitably their response is, well, how do I do that? And so it was kind of Alex saying, Will, like, people ask me these kinds of questions. I don't really know where to point them. So it was him saying, hey, Will, would love to partner up with you on this. Maybe we come up with this offering where you're kind of on the writing and editing side, and Alex is more so on the, once you have the book, how do you get your message and your voice out into the world?
Mhm.
So that's kind of our gifting and skill set and where we originally teamed up. So we did it. He said, Will, I've got a guy who's talked to me about his book. His name is Colin Holba. He was an NFL long snapper that has since retired, but that was kind of the premise of Colin's book. He was in the NFL for 4 or 5 years, and he had this idea for this book called Leap. And so we took on Colin as our first client. We were like, let's see how this goes. We published him July of 2021. And actually, just last week, we kicked off our 30th author.
Great.
Yeah. So the last year plus has been a blitz.
Mhm.
I've been head down, kind of like if you know of that little cat gif where the cat is at the computer and the little
Right.
cat paws are going. That's kind of been my last year. A lot of writing, a lot of editing on behalf of our clients. At the end of 2021 is when we really started to pick up steam, so much so that Alex quit his full-time job to pursue his own speaking and authorship, but then also Streamline is what we'd begun. We put a name on it. It turns into 2022, and just this year we've been blown away at the amount of individuals that have reached out with that book idea they've been sitting on for years, but they just don't know the next step to take. And so I think ultimately that brings us to this conversation. Those are great questions of where does someone begin? How do you go about the publishing process? It's kind of been our last year plus of exploring, starting to build out a team. So I could get into all that, but I've already said a good amount. So sorry if that's kind of a mouthful, but
No, that's okay. You are leading right into my first question I actually have, which is, what are the steps that someone needs to take to start writing a book and get it published? If that's what they want to do, they want to get out there in the world, what do they do?
Yeah, great question. Just because that, and we kind of have that stat at our hip that was a New York Times article years ago that was like 81% of people say they want to write a book, but less than 1% do it each year. Which is pretty wild considering already it's like, the thousands, millions of books that are out there. But where Alex and I are kind of leading this approach and kind of our why of, which is asking that question, why do you want to write a book in the first place? For as many people that have these intentions of, I'm going to write this next bestseller, or I'm going to, my book's going to blow up and all these things. We actually think one of the best things we can do for our clients on the back end of the book writing process is help them level set expectations on the front end, And so I think that, and I say that honestly to answer your question of like the first thing you need to do in the process is understand that there are way more meaningful reasons to begin this book writing journey than selling a bunch of books, than making a ton of money for your business off the book. Like we have just found that the process of undertaking the process of writing your book and bringing it to life is so life-giving and just surprises you in so many other ways other than some of those initial thoughts. So pragmatically what that looks like, this is where it is a little more straightforward to the point is, start writing always helps. I think sometimes you overthink it of all these ducks in a row need to be, Colin, that first author, when he was like, guys, I need help here. We were like, awesome. Do you have anything? He was like, yeah, I've got like 10 to 15 pages written in a Word document. We said, that's an awesome start, great job. But I think where our kind of bread and butter comes in what we do as a professional writing service and helping others steward and write their stories is namely the accountability. And it's people that are sitting on this book idea for years by themselves that just need a person, yes, but we think a team around them to actually make that book a reality. So that is what Streamline Books serves as. We're a professional writing service first, is kind of what we say. We are then kind of more of like a speakers bureau second, and then we're a publishing company third. And I can explain why on each of those reasons. So Streamline, we have a 16-week process. So it starts off with a 90-minute kickoff call that we do at the beginning. We talk about everything from your book outline to who is the book for, to what are themes of your book. And then that kind of kicks off the 16-week process where we define outline, eventually engage the writing process. And so the whole thing kind of goes beginning, middle, and end. Beginning is writing, editing, getting to your finished manuscript. The middle is the publishing piece. And then the end is saying, okay, now how do we come alongside authors and help them in the aftermath and set them up for success there? So beginning, middle, and end is kind of the easiest way for us to describe it. But it's also the easiest way, to describe the process in and through itself. Now, we know that what people are paying us for in our service in and through Streamline is more so the beginning and the end portion. The middle publishing space, whether and your listeners are aware or not, it's like I had a guy ask me one time. He said, "Will, like, what does it cost to get your book published?" What you said generally, what does it cost to get a book published? And I said, well, that'd be kind of like asking, what does it cost to photograph a wedding? It's like if you have a nice aunt and she has a camera laying around, theoretically, photographing your wedding is free, but that's typically not how it works. It's a girl who has been following around her favorite photographers for years, and she knows the one that when she gets engaged, she's going to add. And so similarly, it is the writing and editing that we are assisting people with. Publishing that we largely do in that self-publishing print on demand space. So that's why, it is, and for any of your listeners, it's like if you had time, you could watch a few YouTube tutorials and figure it out. Now we know it forward and back, and how to bring your book to life, because there are a lot of components to it. And then, the aftermath, which is kind of more Alex's gifting and skill set. It's actually part of our name. So Streamline Books, obviously, because we help people bring their book to life. But then we also believe in Streamline Books talent, in the sense of helping people get booked, whether it's they want to get into more speaking or they want to do more podcasts or so on and so forth. And a book is a great kind of launch point for all those services as well.
So if someone is going to want to write a book and they're like, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get started, do you recommend that they just like create an outline first and then write around that, or they just start writing whatever they're thinking of and worry about putting it into like chapters and, paragraphs and everything later? Like, just get your ideas down. Like, what are the recommendations about just getting started?
Yeah, great question. And I would say it's kind of a both and. I would say as far as really honing in and formulating that outline, we wholeheartedly believe in that process as well. It's actually the first week or two in our process after we conduct that kickoff call. Now, we talk with prospective authors about that high school or college teacher, they say it for a reason, to spend time on your outline. Now, for the amount of actual outlines in high school that I actually spend time putting together, I could probably count on one hand. Candy, I bet that you are far and away ahead in that department, but it's for good reason, right? It is, if you have that outline, and if you've done your due diligence, the writing should be that much easier. Now, for the book writing process, we think it's so much more fun to create this outline that's in your head because high school, college, it's a little more opening paragraph, three body paragraphs, ending paragraph, but this is your book, and you get to structure it the way that you want it. It's like, gosh, it's so fun. I could give so many examples. One, Brandon Puffer, just awesome guy who's in our pipeline. We're about to push his book over the finish line. He's a Major League Baseball player for 15 plus years who actually ended up going to jail for a few years at the end of his career. Just kind of a crazy story and the redemption that has come for him afterwards. And so it's fun for him, because we got to structure his chapters, 9 chapters, 9 innings of a game. And so those last couple of chapters, he was a relief pitcher, and he talks about, finishing the book and closing out your story strong and those kinds of things. So the outline is so fun to come up with on the front end. However, once you write the outline in the book itself, it's clarity. Clarity in my mind comes through writing. And so to just begin the writing process and just to start, and if your listeners are here saying, take it, do a page at a time, and write in double spacing so that a page a day doesn't seem as daunting, and it's like,
right.
A page a day is great, and maybe by page in 4 or 5 or 9 and 10, you're starting to say, wow, like this thing's starting to come into clear focus. And then you can revisit your outline and all these
Hmm.
things. So I don't know if that answers your question of,
Well, it's a
I
good
think it's
place to
kind of,
start. Yeah, I just want to make
yeah.
sure. So if someone is thinking of doing this too, but they're like, wow, a whole book seems completely overwhelming. And I know there are books out there where I can be, one chapter in a book. Do you recommend maybe they are part of a compilation book to start? Or maybe either they could participate in someone else's, or maybe they want to gather other people to put into their book as well as a compilation? Like, do you recommend that, or do you recommend like you on your own?
Yeah, another great question. So, and this gets back to a little bit of our name as well. So, kind of twofold for streamlined books. Streamlined in the sense of a 16-week process, where from a project management standpoint, we've done really hard work to formulate that piece.
Okay.
People's response like, oh, 16 weeks, that seems pretty quick. It's like, well, yeah, it's a third of the year, so it's a good chunk of time to focus. Again, the accountability of setting that date at the end, and it's just like registering for a half marathon. Once you register, put money down, it's like, okay, now I got to
Hmm.
train for the thing. But also streamline the size. So book length is, I think, kind of what you're getting at here too, and what kind of lowers the defenses of some of our prospective authors that are saying, wait, if I don't have to write the 300-400 page deal that we've all trudged through, and a number of those books you get to the end and you've thought, probably could have been 30 or 40 pages.
Hmm.
A lot of these books where it's like there's fluff and it's like, I don't know, it's a slog. Well, for our authors, we believe in, hey, there's nothing wrong with right here. And
Hmm.
I guess if someone's listening to your podcast, they can't see me kind of pinching my fingers together on the shorter book that is easier to read. It's digestible. It tells your story in a succinct way without, getting too long-winded. Our authors, they want to know, hey, like, how long will my book be? There's a great phrase of readers think in pages, authors think in words. And so for us, it's typically around 15,000 words on the lower end and around 30,000 to 35,000 on the high end. So again, our authors go, well, how many pages is that? So about a 15,000 word book equates maybe like a 90 to 100 page book on the low end. And then the latter 30-ish thousand would be anywhere from 170 to 190 page. Granted, you've got things like font size and line spacing that
Hmm.
can fluctuate your page. But yeah, that kind of speaks to a little bit on book length. Now, to your point on any other contributors, I think there is something to be said for cooks in the kitchen, and the more people that you invite into your projects, sometimes the messier it can be. However, if you have a clear enough, this is where the outline kind of comes in, and vision for what you need from other contributing writers, like that
Hmm.
helps. So, of course, we've worked with a number of authors where if we are specific and we say, we need, you know, a story or a memory from your time in this person's life, and it needs to be between 500 and 750 words. If you're more specific, you're more likely to get that kind of feedback. But then if Alex were on this call and he'd be telling you his first book that he published, Thrive You, was a 365-day devotional where he garnered those kinds of anecdotes and devotions from college athletes across America. And so I know that for him was its own beast. And I know that for him was his moment to say, I don't want to say never doing that again, but he's always quick to caution authors, hey, when you bring other people in, that just delays the process and you got to
Hmm.
wait on authors. So I think that doing it yourself just kind of keeps you in control. However, it goes back more so to an outline question of if and when you would want to sprinkle in other words from other people, maybe a family member or a close friend. Just get specific on where you want them in your book. Like maybe they write the
Hmm.
foreword or the afterword to your book. And those ways are a little cleaner than having so many people throughout your book as a whole.
Right. Well, and you mentioned you have a 16-week timeline. So is that basically from the time you start writing and then you're finishing, and there's some prep work ahead of time before that 16-week starts? Or is everything that the author has to do within that 16 weeks?
Yeah, so we work with authors that are either coming to us from scratch or that are nearly done with their manuscript. Now, of course, so I say that because it looks different from everyone, but to answer your question, yes. I mean, once we do that kickoff call, we assess where are you at. Now again, sometimes the person starting from scratch will take just as much time as the person who has a lot, because as you know, sometimes it's almost more difficult to go back through a manuscript that's mostly written and say,
Mm.
oh man, like we have a lot to figure out here and kind of deconstruct so that we can construct the thing. Sometimes it is easier just to start from scratch with an author. Now, we have two options. Option one is an author going, hey guys, like I want to do the writing, I want to spearhead the process. We say that's great. So our option one offering is more so we're trailing an author. There's a term of developmental editing. So that's kind of more high level editing alongside them. And then our option two is more of a ghost write. So that's someone saying, guys, I have the idea in my head. What I don't have is time or the skill set to sit down in front of my computer. So there we conduct a series of interviews, we transcribe, we have a ghostwriter who drafts that first manuscript while the author is also in the document with us. So they can also be collaborating, adding in their own input, their own writings. So that's kind of how we work in one of those two options.
Mhm. So should they be thinking like this is going to be like a PDF that I'm going to share, electronically with people, or it's a Kindle version, or it's going to be printed on paper? Like, what should they be thinking really for the long term for what's going to happen with their book?
Yeah, great question. And that's where this is such a fun conversation to have with other business owners, leaders. I'm sure a lot of your listeners that just might not be aware that technology is there from a print on demand perspective. So I'm a self published author. Alex has done both. Alex is self published and he's a traditionally published author. Right now, if you went to any of our streamlined books, authors, book listings on Amazon, and if you purchased one, our authors, they don't do anything.
Mhm.
Amazon prints the book, sends the book to whoever bought it. So yeah, no, it's ebook, paperback, and hard copy is what our authors get. And the quality is great, like it hasn't always been this way. It used to be
Mhm.
10, 20 years ago when people thought of self-publishing, it was more of a cumbersome process. You had to either conduct a shorter long run of your books, so 1,000 books you'd get sent to your house, and your spouse is staring at them in the garage going, when are you going to move these things, and so it's just not the case anymore. Print on demand makes it so accessible, even though we also have custom printing the capability if someone wants to get crazier with their cover, because we've done gold encrusted, fancy jacket. If anybody wants that kind of custom printing look and feel, we can do that too. It's just more expensive in terms of what you're paying for print costs, and then if you're the one shipping them and so forth. So yeah, most of our authors, they're so happy with the print on demand service. The book quality is great, but it's also not anything more than they need. When you're
Right.
holding it, it might as well be a traditionally published book. Most people just don't even know the difference. So
Mhm. And do you want to touch on maybe like Amazon sales? I mean, I know I recently was participating with an author ahead of time. Like I got a PDF copy, like I bought it on Amazon before it was available, but he sent a PDF copy for us to read ahead of time so we could actually leave a review the day that it was released, because he was hoping that would help, by getting these reviews ahead of time, more people will see it, he'll be able to sell. So what do you think about Amazon in that whole process?
yeah, so what I think about Amazon specifically and why we funnel a large, most of our clients through Amazon KDP is mostly because of the royalties breakdown. And that's a question that we get too about Streamlined. Once we get your book over the finish line, we're out. Like our authors get all the royalties. As it relates to Amazon KDP and books that are sold through Amazon, it's an amazing 60-40 split where it's 60% of sales go to the author, 40% go to Amazon. So the royalty breakdown's pretty crazy again in terms of the publishing industry. Well, you'll have a lot of most traditional publishers, that when it's
Mhm.
all said and done, I mean, it's pennies to the dollar that you're making on, it's
Mhm.
insane. And so we love having our author retain a majority of control of their revenue share. Now, as it relates to book sales in themselves, again, it's another thing where we get to help authors kind of level set and reframe where they think a bulk of their revenue is going to come through, because just plainly put, Candy, it's not through book sales. Book
Right.
sales is a piece of the pie. It's a very small piece of the pie. Again, it's why we're passionate about streamlined books, because we get to say, hey, it's what your book opens you up to that is the real potential for your ROI, and
Visibility, right?
exactly. And that ROI question, we get it, we understand it, is an investment for sure on the front end. Yeah, but you have this book for the rest of your life,
Hmm.
and people just say, how many books would I have to sell to recoup, what I would invest with you guys? And we say that's a wrong way to think of it, because, how many book sales, yes, but how many speaking engagements, what sort
Hmm.
of curriculum might you turn your book into to sell, workshops, consulting, all these different things that add to that ROI question. So yeah, that's what I would say on the book sales component, if that answer makes sense. We
Right.
hope we hope you sell X amount of books, but it's almost even the stuff that you can't even see coming that is so exciting. I mean, one of our authors, Dale Alexander, he's at the top of our website, one of our first authors. He actually just secured a deal to get 25,000 of his books into the Miami-Dade school system on financial literacy, and it's because he had the real copy of his book and 40 plus Amazon reviews. We published them in April, that the leaders in that system are going, hey, there's something here.
Hmm.
That order from Miami-Dade doesn't happen if Dale doesn't get his book published, get his first reviews in, and what is 100 or 200 or 500 book sales when all of a sudden you've got this yearly, so there's
Right.
just different ways to look at it.
Exactly. Well, I know we're running out of time. This has gone very quickly, this chat.
Oh man.
But I want to ask if you have an offer that you would like to share and how listeners can connect with you.
Yeah, totally. So if listeners want to connect with us, we would love to hop on an intro call so they can go to our website. So it's actually writemybooks.com. And so writemybooks.com, it'll take you to Streamlined Books website. And yeah, I mean, we would just love to initiate that call and what it looks like to bring your book to life. It's like it says on the website, what you'll see is the world needs your book. And people ask us, they go, does the world really need my book? We say, well, 7 billion people, probably not, but there is a world closer to home, and you'd be surprised once you send your voice out into the world. So
Right. Well, thank you, Will, for stepping in for Alex, who couldn't be here today, but I'm so glad we were able to chat with you and still, have this conversation. I think it was important, and I wanted listeners to hear what it takes really to get a book put together. So thank you so much.
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Candy. You're doing such great work here and elevating other business owners and letting us speak into the conversation and the platform you've been given. So excited to keep the conversation going. And yeah, hopefully next time we do, the real inspiring communicator will be on this call, and we'll go from there.
That sounds great. And to the listener, I thank you for tuning in. I hope you found this topic interesting and that answered some of your questions about how to write and publish your book in 16 weeks. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to Will at the link that he shared or send us a message at media@abandp.com. And I hope you can join us for our next episode. And please remember, you can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And my website is abandp.com. You could find that podcast posted on multiple favorite podcast platforms, including iTunes, Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And would you please share our show with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? I'd really appreciate your support. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.